Hello everyone, it's me Sapphire Opal again. Thank you for watching this video. I'm sure that you are interested in learning more about this said Rh negative alien contactee connection and whether it is true or false. There is a lot of information out there, or rather what I'm going to call misinformation, about the said connection between being an alien contactee and the Rh negative factor. Throughout the duration of this video, I am going to be talking about the different parts and the reasoning behind this said connection, and I will be taking apart these reasons and talking about the facts and the reasoning behind it and essentially the origins of this entire myth. So I'm going to be talking about whether the different reasons behind it are fact or myth, and I'm going to be talking about actual statistics and also the science behind the Rh negative factor, the ABO blood system, and the like. However, before I get started on that, I would like to talk more about the actual ABO and Rh system so that you have a better understanding behind the basics of the ABO blood system and also the rhesus factor. So in essence, the ABO blood type system consists of an individual having a specific set of antibodies and antigens in their blood system. Antigens are, in this case, basically what is native to the red blood cells or RBCs and what's on the RBCs, and then antibodies, which hook onto one specific antigen or recognize a specific antigen, are what are basically anti-antigens, if that makes sense. So as you can see in this chart below, people who have type O blood have what are H antigens, which are basically the precursor to type A or type B antigens. Someone with type A blood will have A antigens, but type B antibodies. Type B blood will have type B antigens and type A antibodies. Those who have type AB blood will have both A and B antigens and none of the antibodies associated with the ABO blood system. And then those who have type O blood will have both A and B antibodies, but they still have the H antigen. And now this is important to discuss because for the individuals that happen to have the Bombay phenotype, which is named after the Bombay region in India, which is where this blood type was originally discovered, is that these people actually don't have the H antigen. However, these people will actually test as having type O negative blood. So if you happen to have the Bombay phenotype, my advice to you would be to donate your own blood in the case you need to have surgery and you end up needing some blood or some other medical procedure that involves blood transfusions or something of the sort. Since you cannot safely receive type O negative blood due to the H antibodies that are also present in your plasma. So that is the general consensus of the type ABO blood system. Of course, this does apply also to the rhesus factor. And actually, the rhesus factor blood type is actually about having the rhesus D factor. I believe there are over 30 rhesus factor types, if not more than that. But for the ABO and rhesus and Rh factor blood type, it focuses on the Rhd factor. So if you have A positive blood, for example, you have A antigens, and you also have the rhesus D antigens in your bloodstream, on your RBCs. But if you have, say, O negative blood, you're going to have not only A and B antibodies, but you also have or develop antibodies against the rhesus D factor, if that makes sense. So this is pretty much the gist of the ABO blood typing system. I hope this made sense to you. I did also list some of my sources below in the case you want to do your own further reading, or at the very least you want to know where I got my source of information from. One of the main points about this said Rh-negative alien contactee connection that a lot of people focus on for the said connection is that O-negative blood is the universal blood type donor and therefore has to be the most ancient blood type. This is actually not true. It is a positive that's is said to be the most ancient, but that's not the point of this video that I want to talk about here. My sole focus instead is talking about the fact that O-negative blood is not truly universal, and this is why. As I talked about earlier in this video, O-type blood has different antibodies in their plasma, right? And when it comes to blood donation centers, they talk about things like your blood is saving 3 separate lives. That is because your blood can be broken down into 3 separate components, as it's not always the entire blood, not all of your blood rather, that is used for one person, which would be called whole blood donation. As you can see in this chart below, the different ABO blood types can receive red blood cells, plasma, and platelets from different types depending on the blood component itself. Type O-negative blood is the universal red blood cell donor because O-negative blood does not contain type A, B, or RhD antigens on the red blood cells. However, as I talked about earlier, type O blood does have H antigens, the said precursor for the AB antigens, and the Bombay blood type does not have the H antigen but has H antibodies. Therefore, people with the Bombay phenotype are highly encouraged to donate their own blood in the case they ever need blood for any type of medical procedure down the road. Now, as I also said earlier in this video, type O blood contains both type A and type B antibodies. It is because of this that type O blood can only give plasma to other people with type O blood. Now, type AB positive blood is actually considered to be the universal plasma donor. And the reason why that is because type AB positive blood does not contain any of the antibodies associated with type A or B antigens or antibodies for the RhD factor. This is actually the main reason why AB positive plasma is considered to be liquid gold in the world of blood banks. When it comes to platelets, people ideally should receive platelets from the same ABO blood group, regardless of the rhesus factor type or HD type. But apparently, you can still receive platelets from people who have different ABO blood types. But as I said, it is ideal to receive platelets from someone of the same ABO blood type. So that is the general gist of why O-negative blood is not the universal blood donor. Another big point of this Rh-negative alien contactee said connection is that it is said Rh-negative people are more likely to be extraterrestrial contactees. Now, I was able to find a study conducted by an organization called International Community for Alien Research, or aka iCAR, They conducted a self-reported survey consisting of asking survey takers to indicate if they have been contactees and what their blood type is, if they are Rh negative, AB positive, or whatever. So this is technically a fact going based off the numbers, but as you can see in this chart below, I did indicate the link for which I got these numbers from. You can see in the chart below that there are over 53,000 respondents as of sometime last week when I started to work on this video. As you can see, I did indicate the worldwide distribution along with the number of contactees in this said survey study. Even though O negative is about 7% of the whole worldwide distribution, it does consist of about 32% of all alien contactees. And then, as you can see, O positive consists of about 37% of the worldwide distribution and serves as being about 19% of all contactees, or over 10,000. And then the second most common blood type, which is A positive, constitutes about 13% of all alien contactees, or almost 7,000. Interestingly enough, AB negative blood, which is the rarest blood type in the world among the ABO blood system, only had about 1,800 people with AB negative blood respond to this survey saying that they were alien contactees. So I thought that was a pretty interesting finding of this study. And as you can see in the chart in the bottom left, the worldwide distribution is 85% for Rh positive blood and then 15% for Rh negative blood. About 40% of all respondents were said to have Rhd positive blood and 60% Rh negative blood. And then if you organize it by ABO blood group, you will see that 44% of all people in the world do have type O blood, and this constitutes for about 51% of all contactees, followed by type A blood, which constitutes 42% of the world population, and constitutes almost 32%, or over almost 17,000 of all contactees. Type B blood is 10% of the world population, and about almost 9% of all respondents had this type of blood. And then in last place, which again was surprising, was type AB blood, which is about 4% of the world population and constituted for only 6.5% of all respondents for this particular survey. And then as you can see below on this image, I decided to put them in pretty little graphs just to give it a little more of a visual perspective on the differences and the different blood groups by RHD type, ABO type, and things of the sort. So it is technically true that RHD negative people are more prone or more likely to be a said alien contactee. And of course, you can go ahead and see the source of this data and the study in the link I've provided below. Now, there are a few shortcomings of this particular survey and how it is or was being conducted. One of the biggest things I noticed about it is that during the last year or so, when I was researching for this particular study, I noticed that in the multiple times I visited this page, I had the option of responding to the survey multiple times. It does not appear that they are keeping track of IP addresses when it comes to tracking all of the respondents that are responding to this particular survey. The third point I want to discuss in this whole Rh-negative alien contactee said connection. This may be the biggest eye roller amongst some people, and admittedly I am one of those people, is that Rh-negative blood must mean somebody has alien ancestry. Now, this is certainly not true. And again, a lot of this revolves around the fact that some people believe O-negative blood is the universal donor, which again is not true, as I discussed earlier. And it also revolves around the fact that there is something called hemolytic disease of the infant, where the mother's blood essentially attacks the fetus's blood. Now, when it comes to hemolytic disease, it is the rhesus D factor that is currently known to be of the most clinical significance as of right now, followed by the ABO antigen system. However, there are over 30 blood group systems, and there are more being discovered as time goes on. Some of these other blood group systems also have some clinical significance. I was able to pull up a chart under the antibody screen test on the Labcorp webpage, and is listed as one of my sources below. As you can see in this chart, the RHD, I did underline, and there's a small asterisk next to it indicating that it is the most significant. There are some other clinically significant antibodies that can be present. And actually, one of my aunts happened to have had Duffy antibodies in her blood, and this was a problem in her pregnancy, and the doctor had to closely monitor her for this. So, some of the more clinically significant groups outside of the Rh group, the rhesus factor, which is said to be from monkeys because the rhesus factor was originally discovered in the rhesus monkey. And this is where some people will say monkey blood, God forbid. I'm not really going to get into that. But anyways, so some other clinically significant blood groups outside of the rhesus factor include Cal, which is very significant in terms of hemolytic disease, Duffy, Kid, Diego, MNS, the H antigen, which I myself added in there because of the Bombay phenotype, and then A1. So there are technically subtypes in the ABO blood system, and A1 happens to be one of the two main subtypes. There is A2 as well, which means there's less of the type A antigen involved, but that's a completely different topic in itself. And then, as you can see in the rest of the chart, there are some other blood group systems being mentioned that are either sometimes clinically significant, not usually significant, or not really considered to be significant. Now, this is also applicable in terms of blood transfusions. And this is sometimes why people can be ABO compatible, but there will still be some transfusion rejections, so to speak, by the recipient because of these blood type incompatibilities. So that is just a brief reasoning as to why people who are Rh negative do not necessarily have alien ancestry. A more complicated reason why I am skeptical about this Rh negative alien contactee connection is another one of the points people talk about, saying Rh negative people can't be cloned. Now, I am going to consider this to be a mix of fact and fiction. The reasoning I'm calling it as such is because it is technically true that they can be cloned, because as far as we know, the general public, no human has ever been cloned. And now, of course, conspiracy theories may indicate that, oh, well, of course they're cloning humans, and then talking about how certain public figures will look slightly different, and it must mean that they are either reptilians that are shapeshifters, or they have been cloned, or something of the sort. Now, the way cloning works, it basically takes skin cells from, say, an adult animal, and a nucleus containing DNA is removed from an egg, and then an electrical pulse causes the skin to fuse with the egg, and then there's fusion, cellular division, and then so on and so forth. Now, the problem with this said, oh, people are definitely being cloned, like Donald Trump, Angelina Jolie, and some other public figures, is that when cloning occurs in animals, like with Dolly, for example, you don't get an adult clone, you get a baby clone. And part of the problem with cloning is that the animal clones that have been made generally were not stable, and they didn't live as long, had all types of different problems, diseases, and things of the sort. Now, another source of this said claim that Rh people can be cloned is because scientists have struggled to clone O negative blood, or generally Rh negative blood, in efforts to make the blood banks have more Rh negative blood. Of course, there have been different findings of bacteria that may eat certain antigens and things like that to change a blood type. So, and from what I understand, cloning is really it's a niche, it's a small portion of what the scientific community is interested in, especially with the upcoming of stem cells and generally just creating and growing organs for the purpose of organ transplants, and as I mentioned, trying to clone certain blood types and things of the sort. So generally speaking, cloning people, as you might see in the movie like The Island, or in one of my favorite shows, Smallville, where the dad cloned the daughter in one episode. While it's fun to think that there's a conspiracy of people being cloned, there's a lot of reasons against cloning humans, especially when there are better options out there as far as treating disease and getting blood transfusions, organ transplants, and things of the sort. So this is the general reason why saying that people who are Rh negative can be cloned is technically true and also technically false. Another one of the points I want to talk about in this said Rh negative alien contactee connection is that Rh negative people are said to be more likely to have a specific hair color, eye color, more spinal bones, widow's peak, webbed toes, lower body temperature, and things like that. I'm going to leave it at this, as I was halfway tempted to list the different genes and the chromosomes these genes are on regarding the different traits that are said to be associated with Rh negative blood, to demonstrate the fact that people with Rh negative blood are not necessarily going to have these traits, and that people with Rh positive blood can have these traits, and so on and so forth. But I'm going to instead leave it at this. People can have any of these traits regardless of whether they are Rh negative or Rh positive, and regardless of their ethnic backgrounds. I have found out on one of my other videos, and generally speaking on different blogs relating to this topic, that people who are of African American ancestry or have an Asian background, are from South America, Native American, Latin, Hispanic. Anybody can have at least one or two of these traits, if not more. If anyone here is familiar with Ancestry DNA, 23andMe, My Family Heritage, and things like that, and if you're familiar with the concept of SNPs, you will come to find that there are many different genes being implicated in just eye color in itself, about 15 or so, and that all of these genes relating to these different traits in the said list of Rh negative characteristics, these traits are found in genes that are in various chromosomes throughout the entire human genome. And I'm going to leave it at that. Human genetics is so complex to the point where many people can have different eye colors, hair colors, and such relating to different genes. And these genes are all found in different chromosomes, so therefore it does not make any sense to say that if you are Rh negative, you are bound to have a certain hair color, or have more spinal bones, or have a widow's peak, and whatever else. And that is as seen below. Point is, yes, Rh negative people are more likely to be European, as more Rh negative people are of European descent, but Rh negative blood can be found in people of any ethnic background. And yes, people who are European tend to have lighter hair colors and lighter eye colors and much higher frequencies than in other ethnic groups. But again, different eye colors have been found in people of different ethnic backgrounds. So yes, while statistics may say someone who is Rh negative may more likely be European or something, that does not mean or exclude anyone from other ethnic groups. So again, I'm going to leave it at this, stating that human genetics is so complex to the point where saying Rh negative people are more likely to have these specific traits is actually rather laughable. And of course, body temperature can be related to a number of things, such as how much water you take in, hormones, having a certain disease, and things like that. Again, it does not necessarily relate to whether or not you have the Rhesus D factor in your bloodstream. So, thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it interesting and enlightening. Overall, I think that there is more to it than the Rh negative blood type. The data I looked into seems to have more of a pattern that correlates to the AB blood type, if we were to go by the ABO-RH blood system. Of course, many of the said traits are, to the average person, is going to raise eyebrows and say, really? Anybody could have these traits or claim to have these traits, which is true. There are a variety of factors that can contribute to someone having a lower body temperature, I said higher IQ, different spiritual experiences, unexplained scares, and all kinds of different traits. And of course, some of them were more complicated, such as talking about Rh negative people not being able to be cloned and things like that. And of course, you learned in this video too that there are many different blood groups and therefore many blood types that people can have in different blood group systems. And I hope that you learned as to why Rh negative blood seems to be of interest in the said spiritual community. I did make an article related to this topic a few years ago on a few different websites, one of which is still up on Above Top Secret, which is in one of the links below. And I also made an article on hub pages talking about blood type, but not relating to the alien contactee phenomenon, that I'm also going to provide a link to so you can do some further reading in a way that's more consolidated than some of the sources I have throughout this video. I also wanted to say that for the articles I have made on a few websites, 2 of them are down now. My article relating to this topic was actually featured once upon a time on a website called Cosmic U, and also on starseeds.net. Again, both of these sites are now defunct, unfortunately. And my thread on this topic on Above Top Secret is about 6 or 7 years old now. But if you still want to check it out, please do so, as I have talked about other things in this that are related to this video. Again, thank you for watching this video, and I hope you have a nice day. Thank you.